Before we begin, I want to sincerely thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. In a world that moves so fast and makes so much noise, the fact that you've paused to be here to seek a moment of stillness means a lot. I know that sleep isn't always easy, and if you found your way here, you're likely looking for a little peace. Thank you for your trust, your presence, and for allowing me to walk beside you on this quiet journey. When sleep becomes a silent struggle, it's a quiet moment. You've turned off the lights, tucked yourself into bed, and you're ready at least, physically, to drift off. But then it starts. The mind begins its nightly ritual. Did I forget to reply to that email? What if I failed tomorrow's presentation? Why did I say that to her? Thoughts, once hiding in the shadows of the day, now come flooding in with no regard for your exhaustion. You stare at the ceiling, heart heavy with the invisible weight of unresolved worries. The room is silent, but inside you, there's noise, anxious, persistent, and restless. You're tired, bone deep tired, but sleep refuses to come. The more you chase it, the more it runs. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. In our overstimulated, overworked, and overthinking world, sleepless nights have quietly become the norm. We look for answers in sleep apps, herbal teas, or melatonin pills. Some of us scroll endlessly, hoping that mindless distraction will outpace the chaos in our minds. But none of these are sustainable. Because the real problem isn't just lack of sleep, it's our relationship to rest. What if we've been trying too hard? What if the solution to sleeplessness isn't another trick or technique, but a shift in perspective, a more compassionate, mindful way of meeting ourselves at night? Buddhism offers an invitation that's both ancient and radical. Stop struggling. Let go. Sleep, like peace, is not something we force. It is something we welcome. In this article, we'll explore how Buddhist wisdom can gently transform your nights. We'll look at the real reasons sleep eludes us, not just from a spiritual view, but through real stories of people who, like you, once battled the night and now embrace it. This is not about escaping your problems. It's about surrendering control, releasing expectations, and learning how to trust your body, your breath, and the present moment. It's about making peace with your thoughts, not by silencing them, but by watching them pass like clouds across a moonlit sky. So if you're tired, but can't sleep, this might be the shift you've been searching for. Take a breath. Set down your burdens. Let's begin a new kind of journey, one that leads not just to sleep, but to serenity. Chapter 1: Why We Struggle to Sleep. The real battle happens in the mind. We often think of sleep as a physical act, something the body does when it's tired. But anyone who's ever stared wide-eyed into the darkness at 2 a.m. knows sleeplessness isn't just about the body. It's about the mind. The battlefield is internal. You may feel exhausted after a long day, but as soon as your head hits the pillow, the real weight reveals itself, not in your limbs, but in your thoughts. Regrets you've buried all day start resurfacing. Anxieties about tomorrow line up in neat little rows, each demanding attention. Plans, fears, conversations, real or imagined, begin to loop endlessly. And that's the irony: the quieter the world becomes, the louder the mind gets. The hidden attachments we carry. In Buddhist teachings, suffering doesn't arise because of our circumstances, but because of our attachments. We often imagine attachment as something physical, clinging to people, possessions, or status. But there's a more subtle, more insidious form of attachment we overlook: attachment to thought. We're attached to needing answers. Attached to needing control. Attached to the idea that we must solve everything, tonight, or we are somehow failing. This mental grip tightens the moment we lay still. We carry our daytime selves, our identities, responsibilities, our stress, into bed with us, expecting the body to rest while the mind continues spinning. But rest can't coexist with control. Let me share with you a story that brings this idea to life. The Farmer's 83 Problems. There's an old Buddhist parable about a weary farmer who came to the Buddha, overwhelmed and exhausted. He complained, "My crops are failing, my son disrespects me, my wife worries too much. I can't sleep. I have too many problems." The Buddha listened with deep presence, then simply said, "I cannot remove your problems, but I can help you stop suffering over them. Life will always give you 83 problems. And when you solve one, another will take its place. The key is learning not to suffer over them." The farmer blinked, confused. "Then what's the solution?" "Let go of the idea that you can fix everything before you sleep," the Buddha replied. This story has stayed with me. Like the farmer, most of us operate under the illusion that peace lies just beyond the next resolved problem. That if we can solve one more thing, we'll earn rest. But this is a trap. Problems don't end. Our craving for control is the real thief of peace. A modern echo of the ancient truth. Take the story of Margaret, a retired nurse I met during a mindfulness retreat. Margaret had spent her life caring for others, her patients, her family, even her neighbors. But at night, when no one needed her, she couldn't rest. Her mind refused to switch off. She'd lie in bed worrying about bills, her grandson's grades, and her own declining health. "I thought sleep would come when I finished everything," she told me. But the list never ended. One evening, during a group sharing circle, an older woman leaned in and said, "Margaret, your mind is like a snow globe. Shaking all day. The trick isn't to stop shaking, it's to set it down and let the flakes settle." Something in that image unlocked a truth for her. She began practicing a small ritual. Before bed, she'd light a candle, take a deep breath, and whisper, "I do not need to finish the world tonight. The world will still be here tomorrow." Within a few weeks, her sleep deepened, not because her problems disappeared, but because her grip on them did. Thoughts are like waves, we don't need to surf every one. Buddhist practice doesn't ask us to suppress our thoughts. It teaches us to observe them without clinging. Imagine your thoughts as waves in the ocean. When you fight them, you drown. When you try to catch every one, you exhaust yourself. But when you float, just float, your body relaxes, and the waves pass on their own. Tonight, when you lie down, ask yourself, what am I holding onto that I can set down, just for now? You might be surprised by the answer. And that small moment of letting go might just open the door to rest. Chapter 2, The Power of Letting Go, Turning Down the Volume of the Mind. There's a subtle but powerful shift that happens when you realize sleep isn't something you fight for, it's something you fall into when you stop resisting. But how do you stop resisting? How do you let go when your thoughts feel louder than ever? How do you surrender control when your life still feels unfinished? The answer lies not in silencing your mind, but in changing your relationship to it. Just like we take off our shoes before entering a temple, Buddhism invites us to take off our worries before entering rest. Let me tell you about someone who learned this the hard way. Eleanor's evening ritual. Eleanor was a sharp, strong woman in her 70s. She had spent a lifetime raising children, managing finances, and volunteering in her community. But every night, sleep evaded her. Her mind became a never-ending echo chamber. Did I upset my daughter? What if I become a burden? What if the money runs out? These thoughts circled like vultures, robbing her of the peace she so desperately needed. Then one day, during a casual lunch, a retired Buddhist practitioner shared something simple yet profound. Eleanor, your mind is like a guest house. Some thoughts are polite and pass through. Others overstay their welcome. But remember, you are the host. That night, Eleanor tried something new. Instead of lying in bed trapped in thought, she sat quietly with a notebook and wrote down every single worry, without judgment. She didn't try to fix anything, she just gave the thoughts a place to rest outside of herself. When she was done, she whispered to herself, "These will wait. But tonight, I rest." Then she closed the notebook, and metaphorically, the door to her mental guest house. To her amazement, she fell asleep faster than she had in years. Letting go doesn't mean ignoring, it means trusting. So many of us confuse letting go with giving up. But they are not the same. Letting go means we trust that not everything needs to be solved in this moment. It means acknowledging a worry, then setting it aside, like placing a stone down after carrying it all day. It's a muscle we can train, and the more we practice, the lighter we feel. Here are a few Buddhist-inspired practices that can help shift your evenings from anxiety to ease. 3 simple practices to release the day. 1. Write to release, not to solve. Take 5 minutes before bed to write your thoughts on paper. Not to analyze them, just to offload them. Tell your mind, thank you for bringing these up. But you don't need to carry them into sleep. 2. Floating lantern visualization. Close your eyes and imagine placing each worry into a small paper lantern. One by one, watch them drift away down a calm river. No need to rush. Just let them go. This isn't just a visual exercise, it's a message to your subconscious. These thoughts can wait. I am safe now. 3. Letting go mantra. Right before sleep, repeat a short mantra either aloud or in your mind. I release this day. I have done enough. Now I rest. What was, is gone. What is peace. These phrases, repeated gently, signal your nervous system that it's safe to soften. They transform your mental environment from urgency to tranquility. The Zen of folding your thoughts. A monk was once asked how he managed to sleep so peacefully every night. He replied, "Before bed, I fold my robe neatly. I do the same with my thoughts." That metaphor stayed with me. We don't need to fix our lives before resting. We just need to put things in their place. Gently, lovingly, as if preparing for sacred rest, not with tension, but with tenderness. Reflection question. Tonight, ask yourself, which thought is knocking on my door that I no longer need to entertain? You don't need to banish it. Just stop feeding it. You'll be surprised how quiet your inner world becomes when you stop answering every knock. Chapter 3. The breath as a gateway to sleep, finding stillness in every inhale. There's something profoundly honest about the breath. It doesn't rush. It doesn't cling. It doesn't overthink. It simply moves, steadily, quietly, and with an ancient rhythm that has been with us since birth. And yet, in our most anxious moments, especially those long nights when sleep slips away, we forget to notice it. Buddhism teaches that the breath is more than a biological function. It's a teacher, a guide, a gentle tether to the present moment when the mind tries to run wild. If your thoughts are a storm, then your breath is the anchor. And every night, no matter how loud the noise within, you can return to it. Haruto and the Forgotten Art of Breathing. Haruto was a retired craftsman from Kyoto. In his youth, he'd spend entire days carving delicate patterns into wood. He often described those days as silent meditation with tools. But in his later years, sleep became a stranger. His body was tired, but his mind wouldn't stop wandering. Every night brought back echoes of unfinished tasks, regretful words, and looming what-ifs. One evening, out of frustration, he visited an old friend, now a monk, who had dedicated his life to mindfulness and meditation. "I've tried everything," Haruto sighed. "Warm milk, herbal teas, even counting sheep. Nothing works." The monk smiled gently and poured him a cup of tea. "Drink this." Haruto took a slow sip. The warmth filled his chest. He paused, slightly confused. The monk asked, "Did you have to think about how to drink?" Haruto shook his head. "No. I just did it." "Exactly," the monk said. "Breathing is the same. You don't need to force sleep. Just return to your breath." That night, Haruto didn't battle his thoughts. He didn't try to meditate perfectly or clear his mind. He simply focused on the rise and fall of his breath, like a boat gently rocking on water. And for the first time in years, he drifted into effortless sleep. Why breath is the bridge between wakefulness and sleep. From a scientific perspective, slow, mindful breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, our natural rest and digest mode. It slows the heart rate, lowers blood pressure, and signals the body that it's safe. From a Buddhist perspective, the breath brings us back to the only moment that matters, now. Not the worries of tomorrow. Not the regrets of yesterday. Just this inhale. This exhale. And in that space, that tiny space between breath in and breath out, peace lives. A simple breathing practice to try tonight. You don't need incense. You don't need a timer. You just need presence. Try this gentle breathing ritual. Step 1. Find stillness. Lie down in a comfortable position. Place one hand on your chest, the other on your belly. Notice where your breath naturally flows. Step 2. Deep inhale. Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Feel your belly expand like a balloon, not your chest. Step 3. Soft exhale. Exhale gently through your mouth for a count of 6. As you do, imagine your thoughts dissolving, like steam rising into the night air. Step 4. Anchor with a mantra. With each inhale, think, I am here. With each exhale, I am safe. Then, I am at peace. Let this rhythm guide you. Not to chase sleep, but to welcome it. Why this works, beyond science. The mind cannot wander if it's watching the breath. Over time, this simple act becomes more than a technique, it becomes a ritual of returning to yourself. So tonight, if your thoughts begin to race, don't argue with them. Don't chase them. Just return to your breath, that quiet, faithful friend who never left your side. Inhale. Exhale. Let go. Chapter 4. The Mindfulness Body Scan, Returning to the Body, one breath at a time. When the mind feels like a storm, the body becomes our shelter. In a world that constantly pulls our attention outward, to screens, notifications, news, and noise, we rarely return to our own bodies. And yet, the body is always in the present. Always grounded. Always whispering, come back. It's safe here. In Buddhist teachings, the body is not just a vessel, it's a gateway to awareness. It holds the tension of our thoughts, the weight of our unspoken emotions, and the stress of our constant striving. But it also holds the potential for profound stillness. The body doesn't need to be perfect to rest. It just needs to be noticed. And that's where the mindfulness body scan comes in, a gentle, compassionate practice to ease both body and mind into rest. Robert's journey from restlessness to peace. Robert had always been a thinker, a retired school principal with a sharp mind and a life full of structure. But when retirement came and the world around him slowed down, his mind refused to follow. Every night, as he lay in bed, old memories resurfaced like ghosts, moments he wished he could relive, mistakes he wished he could erase, conversations he replayed in search of different endings. He tried all the usual tricks, warm milk, audiobooks, even sleep medication, but nothing could quiet the internal noise. Until one day, he walked into a local meditation group where a teacher handed him a warm cup of tea. Feel the heat, she said. Notice the weight of the cup. The smell. The movement as you sip. Robert followed her instructions, awkwardly at first, but then with surprising focus. And in that moment, something shifted. His mind began to slow. His breath deepened. His shoulders dropped. All because he had returned to his senses, to his body. That night, for the first time in years, Robert lay in bed and gently guided his awareness from his feet to the top of his head, noticing each part of himself, inviting each to rest. And slowly, sleep came, not from force, but from presence. The power of grounding in the body. When we're caught in anxious thoughts, the mind pulls us into the past or the future. The body, however, always lives in the now. The body scan is like gently calling the mind back to the present, one breath, one body part at a time. It's not about fixing anything. It's not about judging how your body feels. It's simply about noticing, softening, and allowing yourself to be exactly where you are. This is how we shift from tension to surrender, not by doing more, but by feeling more. A gentle body scan practice for sleep. Try this tonight as you lay in bed. 1. Settle in. Lie on your back, arms resting gently at your sides. Close your eyes. Take a slow breath in and exhale completely. 2. Bring awareness to your feet. Feel the soles of your feet. Notice any tingling, warmth, or tension. Invite them to soften as if sinking into warm sand. 3. Move slowly upward. Shift your awareness to your legs, your hips, your belly and chest, your hands and arms, your shoulders, your jaw and forehead, and finally, the top of your head. With each area, just notice what you feel. No need to change anything. Just invite it to relax. 4. Breathe softly into each area. As you focus on each body part, breathe into it. Imagine sending warm, loving attention there. Then exhale, releasing any tension you find. 5. Let go of control. Don't try to force sleep. Don't expect silence. Just stay with the scan. Stay with your breath. Let your body melt into the bed. Why it works, the neuroscience of surrender. Modern studies show that body scans activate the insular cortex, the part of the brain associated with interoception, our awareness of inner body sensations. When we bring attention to the body, the mind slows, and the nervous system shifts into deep relaxation mode. In Buddhist language, this is called grounding in the body. Because you can't be both fully in your body and lost in anxious thought. The scan trains your attention to stay rooted in what is real right now, not what could be or should be. And that, in itself, is medicine. Reflection for tonight. Before you sleep tonight, ask yourself, can I allow my body to rest without needing to fix or change anything? Let your body be exactly as it is. Let your breath rise and fall like waves against the shore. And as you scan gently through yourself, remember, you are not your thoughts. You are not your worries. You are the awareness that can choose peace. Chapter 5, Embracing Sleep as a Spiritual Practice, Surrendering to the Rhythm of Rest. In the modern world, we're taught to view sleep as a task, something to cross off a checklist, something to achieve. It's no wonder we lie in bed and think, why can't I sleep? What's wrong with me? But in Buddhist philosophy, sleep is not failure. It's not wasted time. It's not something to conquer. Sleep is sacred. A renewal. A return to balance. A moment where we release everything, effort, identity, and even thought, and allow life to hold us, if only for a few hours. To sleep is not to shut down. It is to surrender, fully and willingly, to the rhythm of existence. The young monk who tried too hard. There is a Zen story of a young monk who, in his zeal for enlightenment, refused to sleep. He believed every extra hour of meditation would bring him closer to awakening. Each night, he sat in silence, resisting the natural call to rest. His teacher noticed his fatigue and gently said, "A bowstring pulled too tight will break. A bowstring too loose will not play. The key is balance." The monk was humbled. He realized that his quest for spiritual perfection had turned into another form of craving, the very thing the Buddha warned against. That night, he lay down not with guilt, but with gratitude. He whispered, even rest is part of the path. And in his surrender, he found a peace deeper than any meditation had brought him. Sleep is an offering, not an escape. Many of us think we have to earn sleep. We believe we're only allowed to rest if we've worked hard enough, accomplished enough, or solved all our problems. But what if rest is not something you earn? What if it's something you're inherently worthy of? Every night, you are offered a quiet doorway into healing. Not through force, not through control, but through allowing. Buddhism reminds us, just as a candle cannot burn forever, neither can we. Sleep is the soul's way of exhaling. The body's way of saying, I've done enough. Maria and the Moonlight Lesson. Maria was a fiercely independent woman, a mother of 4, a former business owner, and a lifelong early riser. Her life had been one of constant movement, a symphony of productivity. But now, in her later years, she found herself lying awake at night, unable to unwind. Her body was slowing down, but her mind hadn't learned how. One evening, she sat under the moonlight and remembered something her grandmother had once told her. The moon does not rush to rise. The sun does not hurry to set. Yet they are always on time. Those words stayed with her. That night, she didn't try to fall asleep. She welcomed it, like an old friend. She breathed slowly, placed her hand on her heart, and whispered, "I trust my body knows how to rest." And it did. Set an intention, not an expectation. Right before sleep, try this. Instead of demanding sleep to come, set a gentle intention, like a prayer whispered into the night. I offer my body deep rest. I release this day with gratitude. May I rise tomorrow with clarity and peace. I surrender to the rhythm of life. These small phrases act like soft bridges, helping your mind move from effort to ease, from control to trust. You're not trying to sleep. You're inviting sleep. You're saying to your mind and body, it's safe now. We can let go. The sacred art of waking mindfully. The spiritual relationship with sleep doesn't end when the sun rises. In Buddhist monasteries, monks begin each day with a simple recitation. I am alive today. This is a gift. May I live with wisdom and kindness. Imagine if we all woke up like this, not grabbing our phones, not rushing into thought, but pausing, breathing, and welcoming the day like we would a dear friend. You might say, I have been given another day. May I move through it with peace. May my actions bring joy to myself and others. Each morning becomes a gentle return. Each night, a soft surrender. This is the rhythm of life. Rise, live, release, rest, repeat. Tonight, let sleep be a blessing. You are not failing if sleep doesn't come instantly. You are not broken. You are simply learning to rest in a world that has forgotten how. So tonight, as you lay your head down, don't chase sleep like it's running from you. Don't grasp at it with clenched fists. Instead, open your palms. Breathe deeply. Let go. Ask yourself gently, what can I release tonight to invite peace? What part of my heart needs rest, not answers? Let your sleep be a spiritual act. A quiet vow to begin again. Conclusion, awakening to a new way of sleeping. As you lie down tonight, remember, sleep is not a task to accomplish. It is a grace to receive. For too long, we've tried to force ourselves into rest, as if we could outthink exhaustion or outrun our minds. We've treated sleep like a test we keep failing, rather than the act of surrender it was always meant to be. But now you know something different. You know that true rest isn't found in fixing everything, it's found in releasing the need to fix. You know that peace doesn't come when the world is silent, but when your relationship to the noise changes. You know that letting go, not control, is the doorway to stillness. Let this be your new truth. Each breath is a bridge. Each night is a sanctuary. And every moment of rest is an act of trust, in your body, in the rhythm of life, and in the wisdom of simply being. A gentle recap, the path to rest. You've walked through 5 chapters of understanding and transformation. 1. You learned why sleep is elusive, not because of a broken body, but a restless mind driven by attachment. 2. You discovered the power of letting go, through story, ritual, and the sacred act of naming what no longer needs to be carried. 3. You returned to the breath, a forgotten ally that always brings you home to the present. 4. You reconnected with your body, softening, one part at a time, inviting rest rather than demanding it. 5. You embraced sleep as a spiritual practice, a sacred pause, a moment of surrender, and a promise to begin again. You're no longer chasing sleep. You're learning to invite it. You're not forcing silence. You're finding stillness within the noise. What you can do tonight. As you prepare to rest, here's your invitation. Breathe, not to control, but to return. Observe, not to fix, but to notice. Release, not to abandon, but to trust. Rest, not because everything is done, but because you are allowed to. Whisper softly, I have done enough. I release this day. I welcome sleep, not as an escape, but as a return to myself. And when morning comes, let your first breath of the day be sacred. Before the world pulls you into action, give yourself a single moment of stillness. Whisper your own prayer. I have been given another day. May I move through it with peace. May my presence bring ease to myself and others. Because when you begin and end each day with presence, even sleep becomes part of your spiritual path. Final blessing. May your nights no longer be battles, but sacred spaces of renewal. May your breath lead you home to stillness. May your thoughts soften like clouds in a quiet sky. May you trust that rest is not weakness, but wisdom. And may sleep find you gently, quietly, fully. Not because you chased it, but because you finally stopped running. Good night. And may your rest be truly peaceful.